remake, a sequel, a somewhat similar spin-off, and now another sequel. I say this with no exaggeration, SpongeBob SquarePants video game resurgence we're currently living through is a timeline that so many other dormant platformer franchises wishes they could have, okay? Spyro the Dragon is sitting in Activision hell, Ape Escape is lucky to get an old game ported to PSN, and do not even get me started on Banjo, I am still traumatized by this, but SpongeBob? Yeah, no. It's actually really good to be a fan of mid-2000s era licensed 3D platformers right now. I started my SpongeBob video game retrospectives all those years ago with one common thought, that one SpongeBoy me Bob, everyone's favorite Robert, is just as much a video game character as any other. And if you've been paying attention these last few years, they definitely prove that to be true. Of course, SpongeBob has been licensed around to so many different things by this point, just for the sake of it, you know, there's no way around it. Hot Wheels Unleashed, Minecraft, Power Wash Simulator, Just Dance, Tony Hawk 3 and 4. Oh what, you thought Fall Guys was a big deal? Oh, what a popular indie game. Okay, well have you heard of Stumble Guys? They're there too. SpongeBoy me Bob, long name Robert, lacks all brand loyalty. Go get that bag, I respect it. You just working fast food the whole time? That can't afford a life nowadays. Sure, showing up in Sonic Racing Cross World is cool and all, but have you heard of Oh Baby Cart? Who hasn't? Boating mobile license be damned. Yeah, of course there's proper Nickelodeon crossover games too, those are still all the rage. It wasn't too long ago we got a complete kart racer trilogy, as well as an all-star brawl duology. Still have no idea when I'm going to be getting to a full-on video on all of these crossover games. I simply haven't had the time to even glance at the Dice of Destiny, I'm sorry to say. You may remember that I did a short about the Cosmic Shake on this channel, as well as a full video on the Patrick Star game over on AntDude Plus, but on the main channel here, I've really never given these games the full spotlight they deserve. And now, with Titans of the Tide on top of that, dude. So yeah, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to AntDude treats SpongeBob SquarePants as a video game character more than most other people do. I don't care, I'm so happy to be back. Yeah, we've already gone over Battle for Bikini Bottom and Rehydrated, but I still want to give these games some flowers, because it's still insane to me that a relatively random niche 3D platformer from the mid-2000s managed to get a remake. I don't know, man, I still think that's kind of crazy. It's still a testament to the actual world building of Bikini Bottom as a total universe that we get a generic Plankton wants to take over the world plot and a platformer adventure that was crafted that doesn't really rely on being a direct tie-in to specific episodes. References aplenty, and if you really love the early era of SpongeBob, of course, there is a lot to love there, but the mid-2000s was filled with video games that were just specifically tied to certain episodes and movies, and here it's just, hey, do you kinda like SpongeBob? You might like this, I don't know. That's evident with the follow-ups of the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, the movie game, and Truth or Square, which would be more direct references. By proxy, that kind of further emphasizes BFBB's strengths. Now, I don't ever shy away from my incredibly obvious bias. I am a big fan of early era 3D platforming. There is just so much charm in seeing any developer under the sun back in the day really trying to make something unique in a world that was just covered in these types of games. Just how the heck are we gonna make SpongeBob stand out next to, I don't know, Vex and Voodoo Vince? I don't know, fellas, we gotta figure this one out. There is just so much charm to be had, and even going back to this original game all these years later, it's not like it's a 10 out of 10 platformer by any means, but it's got really fun mechanics, really charming music, multiple playable characters with unique movesets, and I'm always a big fan of whenever platformers have those. It's just a fun game. Like, at the end of the day, it's just a fun little platformer. I believe that as the decades would roll on, a majority of the following SpongeBob games being as middling as they were, really helped grow a cult following for this original BFBB game. Not every SpongeBob game is trash, we've gone over that many times in the past, but this major console game definitely seemed like a bit of a fluke, so it ultimately wasn't too surprising, I guess, that it would get a remake because SpongeBob was still relevant coming into the 2020s. But it's still crazy to see. In my original video for this game, I said this was the definitive way to experience Battle for Bikini Bottom, and I think I still hold on to that to be the case, but it's definitely easier to look back at Rehydrated now in a slightly different light. The accessibility on all modern storefronts is great, but it's more evident than ever that the OG still has some pros over the remake. Stylistically, a lot of the environments, darker color palettes in the OG are way more saturated and rehydrated now, and I get it. It matches the look of the more modern show, but once again, there's a charm to the original that is simply not kept up with the remake. But the animations are really stiff that could have used more work. It was incredibly lazy on the developer's part to not do anything different with the voice acting. I get it, it saves on the budget to not get new new voice acting, but if you played the original, it's kind of jarring to see a whole lot of new and hear a whole lot of old, especially with how not great Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man's voices were.
No more Krusty Krab means no more fry cooking for you. I think it had something to do with massaging my feet.
But otherwise, I don't know. I still love Rehydrated. The only major issue I have is the swinging with Sandy does not feel right. It is not as momentum based as it used to be, and that's annoying. That's about all I got. Sorry, I'm no speedrunner. I acknowledge that the original is way better for breaking the game, but as a casual platformer fan, Rehydrated I think is still the way to go. Even though Patrick also looks horrible in this, I don't know, something about Patrick with this many teeth, I don't like it. And the horde mode sucks. That multiplayer mode they added was straight garbage. All to say that they used the Robo Squidward that was part of the beta that was cut from the final product just so they can use that again for this garbage mode. Nah, that kind of sucks, but the main game's kind of good. My ultimate hope with Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated was that it was going to completely shift the oncoming tides of future SpongeBob games. I mean, the last major console release before Rehydrated was Hero Pants, and before that, Plankton's Robotic Revenge. Those are bad video games, I'm sorry, but luckily that wish was realized because roughly 2.5 years later, we got a direct follow-up to Battle for Bikini Bottom. Yeah, it turns out Purple Lamp Studios was actually the perfect fit for this. They lived out the dream, man. They remade a cult classic SpongeBob game, and that did well enough to now they can use that knowledge that they acquired and make a brand new game. Here we have SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. The story goes that one day, SpongeBob SquarePants and Patrick Star wake up excited to go visit Glove World, everyone's favorite theme park. And one of my big notes right off the bat, Patrick looks so much better now. Like, oh my god, like it just makes the original model in Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated look so much worse. They nailed it now. I don't know what that creature in the last game was. On their way to the theme park, they stumble across this mysterious shopkeeper, Madame Cassandra, and she offers our heroes this magic bubble soap that can grant wishes to its users. Of course, many bubble blowing events ensue. Hey, look at that, a whole crowd showed up now. Of course, everyone loves it when these two start blowing bubbles. And for a crazy plot twist, Patrick has a thought. He reads the label of the soap and sees that it once belonged to King Neptune and warned how mortals shouldn't use it carelessly. Uh-oh, of course, madness ensues. Everyone is scattered across all these different portals and it's all just chaos everywhere. Bikini Bottom is ruined and Patrick is a balloon. It's a good thing this is a platformer, man, because this type of thing could really benefit from having a quirky little sidekick that stays with me the entire time. Cassandra, what the heck is going on? She tells us that this overwhelming amount of cosmic jelly will allow our heroes to travel through different wish worlds. That's where all of our friends are. They're in some mysterious areas that we can't even believe what's in them when we go through those portals. But you know what? To sweeten the deal, she's gonna give you a costume before going into the next one. So you know, that's nice. That's nice of her. Everything is all ruined, but I get to be a cowboy now. Cassandra isn't evil at all. So yeah, this is basically just an excuse to have a SpongeBob Explores the Multiverse idea. That's really all it is at the end of the day. And I get it, people are kind of sick of the multiverse now. Thanks a lot, Marvel, for that. But I believe SpongeBob actually lends itself to this idea pretty well. It's not like the cartoon just sticks to present-day Bikini Bottom. There's a whole lot of other timelines to explore, and this game does a pretty damn good job of that. This whole wish world through different portals idea, it allows for each area to be pretty varied in aesthetics and mechanics, which is always just fun for a platformer. You got jellyfish fields in the Wild West, so you get to ride on top of Destiny. You got downtown Bikini Bottom during a karate movie taping, so they give you a homing attack. Hell yeah. Rock Bottom during Halloween, and there's a quest where you have to go to talk to everybody to get candy, of course. Medieval Sulfur Fields. This is one of the most visually pleasing areas in the entire game. Dude, look at this big old rainbow that you slide down. This is the first minute of this level. It's awesome. And thanks to this approach, we get to see more of these characters that were otherwise pretty limited before, even if they were in Battle for Bikini Bottom. Sandy isn't playable this time around, but she shows up as a sheriff in the Wild West because you have to go against the evil Mr. Krabs doppelganger, the red-handed bandit. Mrs. Puff shows up as a riding instructor in the Wild West jellyfish fields. Of course, makes sense for her. Way better than...
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to.
Pearl has a shining role in this game. That's a nice change of pace. She shows up as the director's assistant in the downtown Bikini Bottom area. If you go to the past, she's actually the final boss known as Pom Pom. And when you go to the medieval Sulfur Fields, she's a princess. Oh, the depth of this character is crazy. We have it so good now that she's here. These characters and these worlds just ooze so much charm in this game, and it's really nice that they have so much time to shine across these different eras. It's also nice that Mr. Krabs finally sounds like Mr. Krabs, so the voice controversy is over with. And Mermaid Man doesn't even show up here, which honestly is kind of for the best. If you didn't know this, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy as characters are more or less retired due to the passing of the voice actors. So despite all of the other shady things that can go on in the cartoon industry over at Nickelodeon, I can at least respect the fact that Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy were such strong characters that without the voice actors, they can't continue. Just thought I would mention that because I haven't mentioned it before. That's nice. Another bright side to having level portals simply popping up in different spots of Bikini Bottom, it makes Bikini Bottom a really fun hub world to explore. Oh my god, a fun hub world in a 3D platformer, we got that, I'm so happy. Every time you complete a world, you get more of Bikini Bottom to explore, you get to ride Destiny around here, that's so much fun. You gotta help out some other characters, then you'll find the extra portals, and then Cassandra will put you in a different fit. You can go on about your adventure, and there's just a decent amount of stuff to do here. It's not like it's crazy overwhelming or whatnot, but given how strongly PS2 GameCube era coded this all is, this is beautiful. And that's an important distinction to make with the Cosmic Shake. Obviously, platformers as a genre have expanded greatly over the decades, but there's something so nice about the simplicity here that's been maintained. This is a spiritual successor to Battle for Bikini Bottom, the first time we've had something like this since the movie game. And outside of course, the modern aesthetics that we have here, mechanically, this does feel very much of the time, which, in my opinion, is pretty damn cool. You are locked to just playing as SpongeBob this time around, no Patrick, no Sandy, but your moveset is a lot more expanded. Like I mentioned before, you can ride on Destiny, that's cool. There's ball rolling mechanics, you can fly on surfboards to get to other platforms, you can glide now with an open pizza box, you got the karate homing attack, and that's just kind of badass because sometimes in the downtown area that happens in slow motion. Oh, that's kind of cool. And we got the return of sliding down on your tongue, perfect. SpongeBob feels like a really fully fleshed out character here, and simplicity aside, it's a lot of fun. Structurally, things are not as open as they were in Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's definitely a lot more linear. There are multiple collectibles to get in each area, so it does still feel like a collectathon, but in every level you're being told a story, you're having your hand held through that story, and the collectibles, a lot of them are story-based. There are extras like golden underwear that you can get for extra health, but for the most part, you are just along for the ride. To spice things up then, there are now combat arenas where the game will lock up in this crazy dark void, and you gotta battle the evil jellies. So yes, that means there's a little bit more combat here, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's pretty jank. It's not really super clear when a character is in their hit stun phase, like you want to really hit this big guy multiple times over, but you can tell he's invincible at the moment, so you gotta back out because a shockwave will get you. It's weird. It's a pretty jank system. It works fine enough, but I feel like the game would be better if they weren't here at all, honestly. The boss fights, on the other hand, are actually pretty solid. You get to battle Mr. Krabs and Sandy and Pom Pom, aka Pearl. You get this cool sneaking portion with King Gary, and that's a really fun boss encounter. There's way more big baddies than there were before, but because the game commits so hard to the multiverse idea, they're all exciting because you never really know what you're going to expect. They all play more differently than you would anticipate them to. If anything, the Pom Pom fight is the most annoying because she wails like every 5 seconds, and me, dude, me strong, and it sucks. Oh, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. One of the modern perks they've added to Cosmic Shake is the addition of cosmetics. You get a whole bunch of new costumes by collecting a whole bunch of cosmic jelly, but also you can collect a whole bunch of golden doubloons to level up your tier, and every time you do that, you will unlock more costumes. Oh, and these costumes are great. They're so well detailed. There's so much fan service. You got Band Geeks, you got the big old Robobot from Battle for Bikini Bottom. There's Ghost SpongeBob without the nose. That was always a good episode. There's one that's the Rehydrated helmet, which is really cool considering the art for Rehydrated didn't have the helmet, but okay, revisionist history, whatever you say. This is a veritable gold mine of SpongeBob cosmetics. It's honestly pretty damn sick. So much so that it's kind of upsetting that there's no Doodle Bob. You would think, out of all of the options they have available, they could have just slapped a 2D skin of Doodle Bob in here and you can play as him. Maybe they got plans for him for another game. But if the lack of Doodle Bob is one of my primary complaints with this game, I think we're doing pretty good. That's the only complaint I had about Donkey Kong Bonanza as well. Oh yeah, like the cartoon, sometimes the game will cut to very ugly art. It's great stuff. It's no hyperbole when I say I love the Cosmic Shake, and I definitely put it over Battle for Bikini Bottom as far as SpongeBob platformer supremacy is concerned. You can turn into a snail in this one, alright? You couldn't do that one in the last game. It looks really damn good and faithful to the cartoon, the music is really solid, the animations are so much crispier than they were before, where they looked so shoddy. I'm glad they finally upped the budget on that. The voice acting is really good, even though that during gameplay it can get a bit repetitive. The only other major concern in the modern day is that it's a shorter game. Your first playthrough can be about, I don't know, 6 hours or so, and if you know what you're doing, you can cut that down dramatically. But once again, I feel like that really nails the PS2 era perfectly fine. I don't need the game to be super long. Sometimes I just want a nice little breezy adventure in a colorful world of familiar characters and move about my business. Not every single game under the sun needs to be some big AAA release. You know, I really miss the era of B-tier games and platformers especially. Dude, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, I love that game. You think I'm putting that up directly against like Ratchet and Sly? No, there's enough space in the platforming genre for all of these games because unlike a lot of other genres, the good games don't typically waste your time. Essentially, my point being, even though I don't complain about mainstream reviews all that much, IGN gave this a 5, saying it's too bare bones of a platformer, and quote, if you were hoping for something akin to Super Mario Odyssey and a Pineapple Under the Sea, sadly this falls far short. Bro, if you were looking at the Cosmic Shake and thinking you were gonna get even close to the movement options of Mario Odyssey, you're crazy. I can't wait for the next game in this series that is surely going to be a direct sequel to this. Dude, this game is dumb as hell. This mayonnaise as an instrument ass game. Oh yeah, that's right, this happened. I almost forgot. Okay, the Patrick Star game. What's Purple Lamp Studios doing at this time? I don't know, we'll find out soon, I guess. The Patrick Star game comes to us from PHL Collective and published by Outright Games. Ooh, this company is not the greatest, I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm doing a whole lot of talking about the PS2 era. That era was also filled with a lot of licensed game slop. And hey, if you're really nostalgic for that segment of mid-2000s gaming, then you know what, maybe Outright Games is the company for you, because oh my god, this lineup is crazy. You do you, but I will not put the Elf on a Shelf Christmas heroes on my shelf this year. No thank you. So I was really hopeful after the Cosmic Shake that things were going to be taking a turn for the better, and seeing Outright Games publishing the next major console SpongeBob game, I was very nervous. It was clearly not going to be the same quality. But I checked it out anyway. I mean, it got announced in the Nintendo Direct after all. Welcome back, Nintendo slipping in Breacher from the crusty carb at E3. What a time to be alive. But you want to know the craziest thing about all this? I kinda like this game too. The story is as deep as you would expect it to be. You wake up as Patrick Star, go. That's it. You wake up and then you run around and you do things. What do? I don't know, bro, whatever you want. You do sometimes run into characters that have quests, like SpongeBob, Squidward, Sandy, the usual. It still revolves around you just simply doing things, but now a character's telling you to do them, and that makes it more important. Just, you know, don't look at SpongeBob directly in the eyes too long. You'll turn to stone. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did I say run around and do things? No. You can do that, but there's also a button for you to just ragdoll your way throughout all of Bikini Bottom. If it hasn't been made very abundantly clear at this point, this is a sandbox toy game. This is Goat Simulator. Instead, you're underwater as a starfish, as a big stupid starfish. And the big gimmick is that you can hold things in your hands. I swear to God, that's like the main gimmick. Squidward wants you to clear out some sunbathing spots, so whatever tool you get your hands on, you can blow all of these civilians away. SpongeBob wants you to shoot coconuts at targets, well damn it, now you have a coconut gun, shoot some targets. Maybe you'll have to clean up trash and pick it up and drag it into a dumpster. Maybe you have to handle the food line at the new Krabby Patio at the Krusty Krab. This is a nightmare, by the way. Oh my god, each hand can hold things independently. This is a nightmare. There's also vehicular gameplay because you have to drive for Mrs. Puff, and you would think she would know better, but nope, you can go racing as Patrick. Perfect. This has to be illegal. You can even draw if you want. Who cares, man? There's no rules anymore. But hey, you still have a currency here. You're collecting sand dollars, and as you get more sand dollars, you unlock costumes. That's fun. So now you can be the Patrick of your dreams in the Mrs. Puff hosted rec room, where you just gotta destroy a bunch of stuff. Like, this doesn't, in the context of anything I know about SpongeBob, there is no world where I feel like Mrs. Puff is like, hey Patrick, can you destroy everything in this arena that I've rented out for a little bit? But this is a game you don't ask questions. I'm already asking too many questions. Don't ask questions here, all right? Patrick could blow up and you'll be totally fine. Who cares? Once you accept that this isn't a platformer, like we're not getting some Patrick Star exclusive spin-off to the SpongeBob games, and you just accept it as a toy box ghost simulator like, maybe even I would go as far as to say a less polished squirrel with a gun, you know? There's a place for games like this where you can just turn your brain off, get some stuff done, you see numbers go on the screen, you get a little burst of serotonin. It's buggy. Oh God, is it ever buggy? But there's not many other games where you can skydive to the surface of Bikini Bottom, jumping out of a plane as Patrick, and finally my fantasy has been fulfilled. Yeah, man, quite frankly, I'm gonna say it. I would highly recommend the Patrick Star game. It's weird. You would maybe not expect me to say that, but no, it's fun. Swear, this is a really fun game. You want a couple hours of fun nonsense. Dude, the game doesn't even really have like an ending. Like, you just do a bunch of missions, then the fry cook game's open, you do another mission, and it's like, it feels like any other mission you've already been doing at this point, but then the credits roll, and they're like, oh, that was it? Okay. And then you just go back and do more shenanigans if you want. Like, this is a weird video game, man, but I guess probably it's my favorite outright game so far. So, good on you. Outright Games and PHL Collective Dev. The game can even be found for like $5 at this point. Yeah, man, just play the Patrick Star game. It's fun. I don't care. But I hear you. Maybe you're trying to fast forward through this portion because you want to hear my thoughts on the actual brand new SpongeBob game that is another platformer and another direct sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom and Cosmic Shake. Well, boy howdy, the time is now. SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide is the brand new SpongeBob game available on multiple major consoles, and I'm gonna just kind of spoil my thoughts right out of the gate because I just got done beating this game. It's the best SpongeBob game made so far, like ever, out of all of them. If any platformer fan out there is not taking these SpongeBob games seriously, you better catch up because, oh my God, these guys at Purple Lamp are going crazy without you realizing it. Bikini Bottom is in ruin once again. The Krusty Krab is holding a special offer today of all days for cheaper patties. And you know what? In this economy, you take what you can get. And the Krusty Krab is so popular, of course, the Flying Dutchman wants special treatment. Look at him, it's the Flying Dutchman. But alas, nobody is above basic common decency when ordering food. You cannot skip the line just that easy. Just as he's about to order, King Neptune comes in and cuts him off. Turns out he's above the law, but of course he's a king, just throwing his weight around. So they begin to fight for absolute power and supremacy, and in said fight, the Dutchman kills everybody. It's supposed to be just like a beam that turns people into ghosts. Last time I checked, that means he's killing them, including SpongeBob. He's dead now. Cut to Patrick, who suspects that something fishy is going on. He's gonna go to the Krabby Patty anyway, and when he makes it there, the Krusty crew show up in this machine called the Floating Patty, and they bring him aboard. I mean, if you look at the world around him, of course, you may as well escape. And now the quest is to go and find the Flying Dutchman to fix things up. And of course, our heroes, SpongeBob and Patrick, are here to save the day, but one of them's a ghost. How's that gonna work? Well, of course, thanks to their special best friends forever rings, they're able to swap on the fly. One has to be a ghost at all times, one has to be a full body at all times, but they can swap just that easily. You just gotta touch rings. That's awfully convenient. And then yeah, then a platformer begins. It's so interesting, this premise. It's such a filler episode kind of thing. Like the Cosmic Shake had the multiverse as an excuse to show off so many different mini stories in one grand adventure, and thematically show off a bunch of locales that wouldn't really make sense in one cohesive package. But here, there's just one solo plot. Ghosts are the main thing to worry about here. And that's it. It definitely shows in some of the environments throughout that they're not as varied as they were before, but it's still really damn good. And basing the story around the Flying Dutchman and King Neptune, it's a bit of an interesting take. I like it. If we're sticking to PS2 era platformer vibes, not every single game back then needed some big grandiose story. Sometimes they just need some kind of excuse to make another game again, and then they would just do it. So now we have a remake, we have multiverse, and we have Ghost. Perfect, I'm okay with this. And even though visual variety may not be as strong in this adventure, there is a different color that is basically symbolic of the entire adventure. All of the ghost things are green now, while they were purple before. So, that's cool. But even though the story is more focused than it was before, they still get a lot of good mileage out of this idea. Your first area is a giant beach island, and then you eventually go to King Neptune's big fancy palace. You do revisit Jellyfish Fields again, but this time it's snowy. After playing so many SpongeBob games and acknowledging just how grand of a universe Bikini Bottom can be, it is so nice to see some areas that I've never really seen before. That's really cool. Plus you still get to see a bunch of different characters along the way. You have Mr. Krabs, you got Pearl, Plankton, even King Karen all working with you for the greater good rather than telling their own mini stories in the levels. They all want to save the day, even Plankton. It's just, sometimes they're going to be a little bit ruder about it, you know how they are. Plus you got other series staples like Larry popping up from time to time to give you some speed run challenges. That makes sense for him. Cassandra shows up once again. Boy, I wonder why she's in jail, huh? Oh my, Squilliam! Oh my god, my beautiful ugly boy, he's back. Dude, and when you attack Squilliam, he does the tentacle on his heart and pass out thing like he did in Band Geeks. That's so cool. As far as how the levels are built is concerned, we have a bit of a middle ground between Battle for Bikini Bottom and the Cosmic Shake. Things are still basically pretty linear, you're always being pointed in the right direction, but along your way, there are much bigger environments that do really reward exploration with a bunch of other trinkets. Imagine my surprise digging through the menus and seeing a section for side quests. Okay, you're throwing side quests in a SpongeBob game now? And they waste no time to let you know that this game is going to be bigger than the Cosmic Shake. This first beach island, it does tell you where to go, but you got this whole area to explore, man. And there's little islands that may or may not have a thing to collect in there. Like, it's not a huge sprawling open world adventure, but there's definitely more than I was expecting, which is really nice. The change in the cutscene presentation is really interesting too. They go for more of a side-scrolling style this time, and it really works considering a lot of these assets are definitely from the Cosmic Shake and some of them are clearly built on top of that base. By sticking to this more side-scrolling style, you always see the characters' faces, you never have to deal with their backs, and it's a nice touch considering how similar this does feel to Cosmic Shake. At least the presentation does make it stick out just a little bit more. There's no hub world anymore either. We're kind of going more from Mario Galaxy 2-esque in this adventure. Your main base of operations is the floating patty. Not a huge environment, but it does slowly get more NPCs, and there's a shop there with things that you can buy over time like cosmetics, and there's always going to be an NPC there that once you talk to them, you're going to get to move on to the next level of your journey. But the same way I do prefer Mario Galaxy 1 having the Grand Observatory versus the face ship, I do miss exploring Bikini Bottom. If there's any one downside to this game over Cosmic Shake, is I just prefer a bigger hub world. It's a minor thing at the end of the day because everything else is totally fine, but yeah, I'm sure not a lot of other people are going to care, but whatever, I do. When it comes to play control, SpongeBob maintains most of his moves from before. You can spin for an attack, you got a ground pound, you can glide, dodge, shoot bubbles, you got a homing attack. It works. It all works totally fine. SpongeBob feels really fun to control. But now, with the press of a button, you can swap to Patrick at any time, and he does have a lot of similar moves to SpongeBob, but you can't shoot bubbles or doing the homing attack. Instead, you can burrow underground, you can pick up and throw items just like you could in Battle for Bikini Bottom, and you get a brand new grappling hook that you can use to pull items towards you or be pulled in if you use it on a big enemy. And what is remarkable about Titans of the Tide is that this game is actually pretty platform challenge forward. In BFBB, you did change characters, but it was just for some contextual platforming here and there. Maybe there was a cutscene that wanted you to play as Sandy instead, but no, not here. You don't just have different abilities for the sake of it. As you progress, it is required to change abilities on the fly or you're gonna miss your jumps. Very often there are situations where you have to burrow while you're sliding so you can shoot up into the sky, and then when you're midair, you gotta change to SpongeBob so you can karate kick to your next destination, and then you see something else underground so you gotta switch back to Patrick. There is a lot of this throughout the entire game, and it keeps you on your toes in a really surprising way. If you're used to platformers, not a whole lot of these are gonna be totally out of the realm of ease for you, but the fact that they're in a SpongeBob game, after I just said in Cosmic Shake that you don't really need a ton of movement options to make a fun SpongeBob game, they proved me wrong, I guess. It really works here. You also slowly unlock these moves over time. You don't have the full arsenal at the start, and the pacing of introducing these challenges and consistently scaling them up towards the end game and even a post game, it's actually really top tier. These guys know how to make a fun platformer with some actual challenge that reward your skill and paying attention to those abilities. Like after you do a huge segment of gameplay where you're doing a bunch of platforming and then maybe there's a boss fight, maybe you'll run into Larry who goes, "Hey, there's a speedrun challenge, do you want to partake?" And now you have to do what you kind of just did, but really well. And you know what? The times are actually fairly strict. I was very impressed with this. And this is all on top of the occasional gimmick gameplay as well. You got ghost boards where you can skate around these giant environments as a mean for faster travel, as well as higher jumps. That's fun. The boulder rolling stuff from Cosmic Shake is back here as well, and that's great. Always fun when a platformer has more momentum-based gameplay. And yes, the slide sections, of course, they return as well. And I love them so much. Slides and platformers are always so good, and they are better than ever for SpongeBob right here. I don't want to spoil anything about the actual end of the game, but some of the slides at the very end of the game are genuinely really damn good. Like, the end game of this is genuinely up there with some of the better end games in like platformer history in terms of just keeping you on your toes mechanically speaking. Like, it's actually really good. The platforming evokes vibes of not only Mario Sunshine and Galaxy, like there are some challenge areas where there's just a bunch of blocks that are rotating in the middle of a void, and like, yeah, that's very clearly a Mario Sunshine challenge stage. That's fine, but there's even more recent platformers that I feel like some of these ideas are being pulled from, like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Astrobot, and I'm not gonna lie to you, some of the portions of this game kinda outshine what those games do. This is a really good game, you guys. Oh yeah, and then sometimes you got mini games where you gotta like make burgers really fast. But dude, even then, it gets remarkably quick. So like, I was locked the hell in to get a good score. Like, there's an achievement to getting like 1,000 points in here. And I thought it was gonna be easy, but no man, it was pretty intense. Oh yeah, and speaking of intense, the combat. There's combat here as well, and they knew that there were issues with the Cosmic Shake. It is way better here in Titans of the Tide. Bigger enemies are still here, but rather than being able to take a hit and then they just are immune to damage for a little bit and they shove you away, you're able to get in as many hits as you possibly can before inevitably being open for another attack. It makes things faster, it makes things breezier, and with SpongeBob's bubble ability and Patrick's grappling ability, there's also a lot of freedom in how you approach these battles, and it's not overly difficult for sure, but not having to sit there and wait for so many of these enemies just to have an opening. One of the big sour marks of the Cosmic Shake is simply not a thing here. I didn't mention this back in the Cosmic Shake portion, but like, look at the Patrick animation while you're sliding here. I think that's a really funny animation. I'm glad they went with that while SpongeBob still has the sliding on a tongue idea. And it's worth mentioning that with the inclusion of this animation, that while there are a lot of jokes here that are just kind of chuckle-worthy and sometimes genuinely really funny, the game never really relies on meme culture to get a joke across. There may be an idle animation here or there. If you go back into Cosmic Shake, there's a cave drawing of SpongeGar like in the one meme, and like, cool, but it never feels like it's overly cringe, which feels like it would have been super easy to do for a big budget SpongeBob game, but they held back. This is actually a pretty well done story that doesn't rely on a lot of cringe, and some of the dialogue between SpongeBob and Patrick is actually fairly realistic. Patrick is more grounded here than I would expect him to. Like, he knows Bikini Bottom's in trouble and he's there to save it. He has his idiot moments for sure, but I really think the character interactions here in the world they're in is really charming and not insulting to my intelligence, and I'm just really thoroughly impressed. Generally speaking, this is a better game through and through, which is crazy because it's not that my expectations for a SpongeBob video game were completely rock bottom, but I certainly didn't think Purple Lamp would outshine themselves this soon after the Cosmic Shake. But man, they did it. Holy shit. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. The cosmetics, yeah, those are back too. You get a bunch of currency and you can use that for the shop to get a lot of costumes. Same idea as Cosmic Shake. A lot of similar ones from that game too. Nice to see the skeleton one in here. That's really fun, especially since it shows up in some of the cutscenes, but still no Doodle Bob. That's a shame. I really hope Purple Lamp has big plans for this guy in the future, because there's some range for that guy for sure. But you can also get costumes for the ghosts, one being a proper sponge and one being a starfish, and that's just great. But as you can see here, yes, DLC. Some costumes are locked behind DLC, and I'm not the proudest of this, but I did buy the title season pass when I got the game. I know I'm a bad person. Most of this DLC was not available at launch, and there's a lot of it that's just costumes like Dirty Dan and Pinhead Larry, and that's adorable, but it's really annoying that this is all behind a paywall, especially when you have the natural costume pack, which is just them naked. Funny, haha, that's a separate purchase. It was there for pre-orders, and if you didn't, it's like $3. That's very annoying. But also, part of the DLC are challenge levels, and these are actually great. I know, you probably didn't see that coming either. At the top floor of the floating patty are challenge rooms hosted by Plankton, which have boss refights, and that's all fine and dandy. There's even harder boss challenges where they spice things up and add more obstacles each encounter. Cool. But there's also challenge slide time trials, and like, these are really damn good. Visual variety is here. Sandy's hosting a bunch of these, and look at this. I'm on the treetops, I'm going up and doing a whole bunch of vertical platforming. Where was this in the main game, you know? You get to explore Squidward's nightmares, and where was all this in the base game? And then you still got a bunch of the intense character swapping, reaction-based platforming here. These are really, really good. And actually, I wish there was more of them. And I'm conflicted because I loved my time here. These are some of my favorite challenges in the whole game, but they give off vibes of just simply being something that you would typically unlock in a proper PS2 game, not something that's behind a paywall. And when so much of these SpongeBob games is evoking that classic vibe, I can't help but feel a little bit gross that even though this is a more budget game release and it's really damn polished from start to finish, something that feels like it would be an unlockable for collecting everything in the game is reduced to being in a part of a season pass. I don't know, man. A 3D platformer doesn't need a season pass. That's insane. But that one big industry-wide blemish aside, as far as the current generation of games is concerned, I'm gonna go as far as to say that Titans of the Tide is one of the best platformers to come out in recent years. I know, and it's a SpongeBob game. Start taking these guys seriously, man, I'm telling you. Oh yeah, and they also ported Krusty Cook-Off to PS5. That has been a new thing since I last did a SpongeBob video, so if I didn't mention that, could I really call this a modern SpongeBob game video? I don't think so. Now that Titans of the Tide is readily available on all consoles, it seems to me that we have another SpongeBob SquarePants video game trilogy on our hands, folks. In all of my studies of SpongeBob video game playing over the years, there are a handful of titles specifically that can sort of fit into these loose trilogies. It's sort of nonsensical, but it helps me pick out the really good SpongeBob games from the bad, so it's important in my eyes. There's the Way Forward Game Boy Advance trilogy of Movie, Lights, Camera, Pants, and Creature from the Krusty Krab. I make sure to distinct saying it's the GBA trilogy because there's the DS game also by Way Forward, and that one's bad, so you can see why my distinction makes sense. There's the Ultron DS trilogy of Atlantis SquarePants, Drawn to Life, and Truth or Square. Really fun games, certainly as far as handheld SpongeBob games are concerned, these are the best ones, so good on you, Ultron. Most famously, we have the Heavy Iron Studios trilogy of the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, the movie game, and Truth or Square. The quality definitely started to really get low by the third game, but the highs of Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game really cemented Heavy Iron Studios as kings of the licensed video game world. And now, we have the Purple Lamp trilogy of Rehydrated, Cosmic Shake, and Titans of the Tide. And all this is to say, this is now the best trilogy of the whole lot. It's obviously too soon to say that this is a definitive trilogy. There could always be a sequel somewhere down the line, and I do hope that we get more quality SpongeBob games in the future. But right now, at the end of 2025, SpongeBob is in a pretty good place right now, and Purple Lamp deserves a ton of credit for not only revitalizing a cult classic PS2 era platformer, but also giving us sequels that feel like modern day PS2 era platformers with really fast game production times. Rehydrated came out in 2020, and we already got 2 full-blown sequels. In this day and age, that is unheard of. Yeah, if you want Mario Odyssey 2 because Nintendo's not giving it to you, you're not gonna get that here, I'm sorry to say. But as a massive platformer fan, it is my favorite genre. There is such a charm in having a game that looks and sounds like this, but still feels mechanically like the games I grew up with. This is not a dig. I'm not saying they should modernize these games in every aspect for them to be better successes. This is, unironically, the best string of games in the entire SpongeBob franchise, and that's awesome because this goes far beyond just, you would like this game if you're a SpongeBob fan. Like, no, you're probably a little bit of a SpongeBob fan, and if you like platformers, these games are for you. For all of the love I have for what Heavy Iron Studios did back in the day, I do think that Purple Lamp, they know what they're doing, and I think the SpongeBob video game franchise is in pretty good hands, and I can't wait to see more. Maybe spice things up next time and give us like a quality side-scrolling platformer next. You know, that'd be nice, something different. And you know what's crazy? That's more likely than like getting anything with Banjo. I still think of you, my big bear friend, I swear, but oh, it's looking rough you out there, man. I'm so sorry. You let Gex and Bubsy come back before you had a new game. Like, what are we doing here, bro? Listen, at the rate we're going, more really quality SpongeBob games, I'm not gonna say no to that, but why not take this studio that is very clearly intelligent with their game design and do something a little bit different? Maybe shine some more life onto some other licensed properties, huh? Ooh, we can finally get remakes of the Looney Tune games from PS1. Those are really good hidden gems. Maybe a co-op adventure based on like Split Fiction and A Way Out, but for the Angry Beavers. Oh, that's gonna be a good one. Let's see, maybe a new Ed and Eddy full 3D platformer. I think there's some potential there. There used to be some back in the past. Ooh, okay. This one's perfect. Maybe you just go full blatant, a Mario Galaxy ripoff with Planet Sheen. Maybe don't do that one. But I think the real route to go is a SpongeBob SquarePants Dark Souls-like that finally gives Doodlebob a big spotlight as a villain. Listen there, man. Video game companies, if you want to lose a lot of money and go out of business, I got a ton of ideas for you.